one German tank commander. 15 British tanks were destroyed in 15 minutes. The humiliation was so complete that it almost ended the legend of the most feared unit in World War II, a unit that earned its nickname when the Nazis tried to insult them and accidentally made them immortal. But to understand how the most elite armored division in the British Army ended up trapped in a French village, getting massacred by a single Tiger tank, we need to rewind to where it all began. The scorching Egyptian desert of 1938, where a controversial general is about to forge a weapon that will make Adolf Hitler furious and Erwin Rommel desperate. The blistering frontier between Egypt and Libya in 1938 is a moonscape of sand and stone. Here, the 11th Hussars, nicknamed the Cherry Pickers, race across the wasteland in vintage Rolls-Royce armored cars left over from the Great War. The men inside are cooking alive in 120-degree heat, their khaki uniforms stained white with salt crystals. They navigate by sun compass and celestial readings, treating the featureless desert like sailors treat an ocean. Their mission is to protect the Suez Canal, the vital artery connecting Britain to its empire in India, from Mussolini's African empire across the border. The formation they belong to is the Mobile Division Egypt, established in September 1938. It's equipped with obsolete hardware. The 1st Royal Tank Regiment operates worn-out light tanks Mark VI, tin cans on tracks that couldn't penetrate a barn door. The 3rd Royal Horse Artillery hauls 3.7-inch howitzers from the previous century. Fine sand infiltrates everything, clogs breech mechanisms, and turns lubricating oil into abrasive paste. Most British generals don't understand this reality of desert warfare, but one man does. On September 27, 1938, Major General Percy Hobart arrived in Egypt to take command. The troops call him Hobo, and he's about to revolutionize everything. Hobart is a fanatic who sees the future while his colleagues are still fighting the last war. He treats the desert like a naval battlefield, his tanks like warships navigating empty seas. He drills his men relentlessly in independent action and demands seamless cooperation between tanks, artillery, and reconnaissance units. His training methods are brutal. Tank crews spend weeks in the field without returning to base. In one night navigation drill, a 3-tank section gets hopelessly lost 40 miles south. Their compasses malfunction. The stars disappear behind a sandstorm. For 6 hours, they drive blind, fuel gauges dropping toward empty. The youngest commander, a lieutenant fresh from England, makes a guess based on wind direction and a half-remembered lesson from Hobart. He's right. They limp back at dawn with fuel tanks bone dry. Hobart greets them, doesn't congratulate them, just says, "Now you know what fear tastes like. Remember it. That lieutenant will use the same trick 3 years later at Bida Fom. But Hobart's genius is about to get him fired. Hobart's brilliance comes wrapped in a personality that makes enemies faster than the desert makes corpses. He alienates his superiors with cutting criticism and barely concealed contempt. General Archibald Wavell decides Hobart is more trouble than he's worth. In November 1939, Wavell sacks Hobart and sends him back to England. The man who built the desert rats from nothing is forced into retirement. Command passes to Major General Michael O'More Cree. In early 1940, the division officially became the 7th Armoured Division and adopted its famous insignia, a small red jerboa, a desert rodent known for its toughness. But across the Mediterranean, Mussolini's generals think the British in Egypt are pushovers. Italy entered the war on June 10, 1940. The 7th Armoured Division moves up to the frontier wire. The real war begins now. By early 1941, the desert rats had evolved into a superbly trained fighting force. They've developed what veterans call desert sense, an instinctive understanding of how to survive and fight. Water discipline becomes religious. They navigate by the stars, using Hobart's techniques. These men begin to see themselves as different from the rest of the British Army. They're hunters, pirates, desert raiders. When Nazi propagandist Lord Haw calls the British defenders at Tobruk rats caught in a trap, the insult backfires. The men embrace it. They are rats, desert rats, and they're about to show the world what rats can do when cornered. In December 1940, the British launched Operation Compass. The desert rats spearhead a lightning advance covering 150 miles in less than 30 hours. On February 7th, 1941, they reached Baie de Somme. They've gotten behind the retreating Italian 10th Army, cutting off its escape route. What follows is devastation. For 2 days, the desert rats hold their position against overwhelming numbers. Italian tanks charge again and again. British gunners fire until their barrels glow red. The desert air fills with the drumfire roar of artillery. Knocked out Italian tanks litter the roadside. The metallic taste of cordite hangs in soldiers' mouths. Dust clouds block out the sun. On February 9th, the Italian commander surrendered. More than 25,000 prisoners march into captivity. An entire army has been destroyed. The desert rats are no longer an experiment. They're a legend in the making. But in Berlin, Adolf Hitler is screaming. Who's going to fix this? If you want to see more epic stories of military history, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're bringing you the most brutal, most heroic, and most unbelievable moments from warfare's bloodiest chapters. But Baie de Somme plants a dangerous delusion. British commanders develop tank psychosis, an obsessive belief in the supremacy of armor. The desert rats neglect infantry and artillery support. In 3 months, this mistake will get hundreds eliminated in a single afternoon. In spring 1941, American-made Stuart tanks arrive. The British crews fall in love with them instantly, nicknaming them Honey. What they don't know is that German intelligence has been reading their mail. A compromised code has been feeding the Wehrmacht detailed information, and they're sending someone to deal with the problem. His name is Erwin Rommel. The Afrika Korps arrived in February 1941. The real weapon the Germans bring isn't steel or firepower. It's their commander. Erwin Rommel is about to become the Desert Fox. He's aggressive, cunning, utterly fearless. He leads from the front. He understands desert warfare instinctively. And he's coming for the desert rats with fury in his heart. The first clashes are shocking wake-up calls. German 88mm weapons tear through British armor like paper. Rommel uses the desert like a chessboard. The British doctrine of aggressive tank charges became catastrophic. On May 27, 1941, near Halfaya Pass, a squadron of Stuart Honeys spotted what looked like an abandoned German position. Intelligence suggests the Afrika Korps is retreating. This is tank psychosis in practice. No infantry, no artillery, just speed and aggression. The Honeys charge forward. The 88mm weapons open fire at 1,000 yards. The lead Stuart explodes. The shell punches through the front plate and blows the turret 30 feet into the air. The second Stuart erupts in a fireball. Men bail out burning and screaming. The third Stuart's turret shears off, tumbling across the desert. In 90 seconds, 3 Stuarts are burning wrecks. By the time survivors escape, 11 tanks are lost. 55 men are fallen, wounded, or missing. The desert has a new master. Over the next year, the war becomes a brutal slugfest. They're besieged at Tobruk for 241 days. The defenders live in underground dugouts, eating bully beef and rock-hard biscuits. Water is rationed to a half-gallon per day. At night, patrols slip through German lines. By day, they endure bombardments. Lord Haw-Haw's insult becomes their badge of honor. Towns change hands so many times, soldiers stop learning their names. The desert becomes a graveyard of burned-out tanks and hastily dug graves. But the identity of the desert rats hardens into something unbreakable. When the British finally win at El Alamein in November 1942 and chase Rommel across Libya, the desert rats are at the forefront. By May 1943, when the last Axis forces surrendered, the 7th Armoured had fought longer and harder than any other British unit. They've earned their legend in blood and sand. Then they receive new orders. They're going home. They're going to invade Europe. And in the green hell of Normandy, the desert's lessons will get them eliminated. In late 1943, the division ships back to the United Kingdom. The men haven't seen their families in 3 years. England is green and wet and claustrophobic after the endless horizons of North Africa. Worse, they're plagued by the Praetorian Guard complex. They believe they've done their share. This is made worse by a decision that enrages them. The War Office mandates their Shermans must be replaced with British-made Cromwells. The Cromwell has a notoriously slow reverse gear, barely 0.2 of a mile per hour. Against German Panthers and Tigers, Cromwell is hopelessly outmatched. On June 7, 1944, the 7th Armoured landed on Gold Beach. They expect to drive inland fast. Instead, they had a nightmare. The French countryside is dominated by bocage, massive hedgerows, 12 feet high, that stop tanks cold. For an armoured division trained in open terrain, the bocage is hell. Every field is a danger zone. Every hedgerow can hide a German anti-tank weapon. Visibility drops from miles to meters. Hobart would never have let them swan through villages like tourists. But Hobart isn't here. The division is tasked with Operation Perch to capture high ground near Point 213. On paper, it's brilliant. In practice, it's about to go catastrophically wrong. German observers are shocked. The desert rats are acting like they're still in North Africa, swanning through villages in careless columns. They stop for tea in active combat zones. German officers use words like complacent and arrogant. On the morning of June 13th, 1944, elements of the 4th County of London Yeomanry roll through Villa Bocage. The lead squadrons continue northeast along the main highway. The road is narrow, hemlined by stone walls and hedgerows. It's a perfect trap, but intelligence suggests the Germans are retreating. The men are relaxed. Some brew tea. Others smoke cigarettes. They don't know they're being watched. Let us know in the comments. What other legendary military units from World War II do you want us to cover next? The Screaming Eagles? The Big Red One? Drop your suggestions below. In a concealed position, SS Obersturmführer Michael Wittmann sits in his Tiger I. Wittmann is a legend, an ace credited with over 100 victories. He's been watching the British column. What he sees makes him furious. These tankers are driving like they're on parade. Some commanders aren't even buttoned up. Wittmann's Tiger is a 56-ton war machine armed with the fearsome 88mm cannon. Its armor is so thick, most Allied weapons can't penetrate it. Wittmann has 4 other Tigers with him. Against a prepared enemy, 6 tanks wouldn't be enough. But these British people aren't prepared. They're sitting ducks. Wittmann gives the order. The Tiger lurches forward. What happens next will last 15 minutes. It will become one of the most devastating single-handed actions in armored warfare history, and it will shatter the Desert Rats' reputation so completely that their commanding general will be sacked within days. The Tiger emerges behind the British column. The cannon fires with a crack like the world splitting open. An 88mm shell slams into the rear Cromwell with 17,000 foot-pounds of kinetic energy. The tank erupts, the shell penetrates and turns the interior into a pressure cooker of superheated metal. The turret lifts off and tumbles onto the road. Black smoke boils into the sky. Men scream, some bail out burning. Others never make it out. The column is trapped. With the rearmost tank blocking the road, the vehicles ahead can't reverse. The stone walls prevent maneuvering. They're sitting targets. Drivers try desperately to reverse, but the Cromwell's reverse gear means they barely move. 0.2 of a mile per hour. Walking speed. Whitman's Tiger trundles forward, firing as it advances. Each shot is clinical, precise. Cromwell after Cromwell erupts into flames. Crews bail out and sprint. Some make it. Some are cut down. The British try to fight back, but their weapons are inadequate. Shells bounce off the Tiger's plate. It's not a battle, it's an execution. The sensory overload is apocalyptic. The whoosh of incoming shells, then the detonation, the scream of tearing metal, the wet thump of bodies. Smoke fills the street, smelling like burning rubber and roasting meat. The drum fire blurs into one long roar. Within minutes, Whitman has destroyed 15 Cromwell tanks. The Tiger pushes into Villers-Bocage, hunting for more targets. In the town centre, it encounters a Firefly. Sergeant Stan Lockwood commands this Firefly. He sees the Tiger first. Lockwood fires. His first shot misses. The Tiger's turret begins to rotate. It's a race. Whoever fires next and hits will live. Lockwood fires again. The 17-pounder round connects, slamming into the Tiger's right track and blowing it apart. The Tiger lurches to a halt, immobilized, but even crippled, it's formidable. Whitman's gunner fires back. A British 6-pounder anti-tank weapon joins the fight from another angle. Caught in crossfire, Whitman orders his crew to bail out. The British advance has been shattered. By afternoon, the 7th Armoured had withdrawn to a hasty perimeter. The Germans smell blood. They launch a counterattack with 2 battalions and 30 tanks. The fighting becomes savage. German infantry infiltrate through hedgerows. In Horseshoe Wood, hand-to-hand fighting leaves bodies piled under trees. British artillery fire constantly. Shells falling. So close, troops are deafened and shell-shocked. By the end of the day, the 7th Armoured had suffered 217 casualties. More devastating is the psychological damage. The aura of invincibility has been shattered. On June 14th, the division pulled out of Villers-Bocage. The operation is a total failure. The aftermath is a crisis. General Miles Dempsey is furious. Within days, Major General Bobby Erskine is sacked. The men watch as their general is escorted away. No ceremony, just removal. Brigadier Hind is relieved. Roughly 100 officers are reassigned. The men are devastated. They came as heroes. Now they're treated as failures. Morale collapses. But Lieutenant General George Erskine arrives with a simple message. The division isn't broken. It's learning. Adapt or perish. The Desert Rats are about to get their chance to prove they're not finished. In late August 1944, the German army collapsed. The breakout becomes a race. For the first time since landing, the Desert Rats can use their speed. Tank columns thunder down highways at 30 miles per hour. On August 27th, the 11th Hussars reach the Seine near El Bouf. German engineers are trying to destroy the bridges. What follows is a vicious brawl. British armoured cars charge across, machine weaponry blazing. An explosion rips through the bridge's centre span. but not enough to drop it. Hussar troopers sprint across on foot, clearing positions at bayonet point. By nightfall, the bridge is secure. The next morning, the entire division pours across. For the first time since Normandy began, the Desert Rats execute a perfect combined arms operation. This is what Hobart taught them. For the first time since Hobart was sacked, they fought with the aggression he demanded. A captured German major stares at the Jerboa insignia and goes pale. "You're the Desert Rats. We were told you were finished after Villers-Bocage." The British officer smiles. "We got better." On September 6th, they liberated Ghent. The city erupts. Thousands line the streets, throwing flowers at tanks, kissing soldiers, weeping with joy. Old men salute with tears streaming. Young women climb onto tanks. Church bells ring out. For the first time since Villers-Bocage, the men remember what it feels like to be heroes. The advance continues. The Desert Rats clear positions along the Mars River. The combat is grinding, but professional. The ghosts of Villers-Bocage fade. In April 1945, the division crossed the Elbe and drove toward Hamburg. The city is defended by SS fanatics who think the Desert Rats are broken. They're wrong. The fighting is brutal. Buildings burn. The stench of the fallen fills rubble-choked streets. But the Desert Rats advance street by street. On May 3rd, a German staff car approached under a white flag. Hamburg's garrison is surrendering. Tank crews sit in Hamburg's main square, watching German soldiers lay down weapons. The Jerboa insignia, mocked by Lord Haw, feared by Rommel, humiliated at Villers-Bocage, now flies over a conquered German city. 5 days later, Germany capitulates. But there's one final mission. In July 1945, the Desert Rats parade through Berlin. The division represents the British Army in the victory parade through the shattered Nazi capital. As they roll toward the Brandenburg Gate, Winston Churchill stands on a reviewing stand, taking the salute. For the men in the tanks, this erases Villers-Bocage. Every tank lost, every comrade fell, every mistake, all vindicated by this parade through the heart of the Reich. From the deserts of Egypt to the streets of Berlin, 6 years, 2 continents, still here, still wearing the Jerboa, still the Desert Rats. A sergeant sees Churchill's salute and feels tears. For the first time since that terrible morning, he marches without shame. The 7th Armoured Division was disbanded in 1958. But its legacy endures. The Jerboa lives on with the 7th Infantry Brigade. The reconnaissance tactics pioneered by the 11th Hussars became foundational doctrine for modern scouts and special forces. The lessons about combined arms warfare and adaptation echo in military academies worldwide. The Desert Rats remind us that even elite units stumble, that reputation isn't enough, that adapting to new challenges is more important than past glory. From their mocked origins as the immobile farce, to humiliation at Villers-Bocage, to ultimate triumph in Germany, the 7th Armoured experienced the full spectrum of war. They made Rommel furious and Hitler's generals cautious. They proved that with training, leadership, and willingness to learn from mistakes, even a unit on the brink can claw its way back to honor. The red Jerboa still watches from museum displays and memorial stones across Europe and North Africa. A small desert rodent that became the symbol of one of the toughest fighting formations in British military history. The rats that bit back. The Desert Rats proved that even the most elite units can fall, rise again, and become legends. If you want more stories like this, of the warriors and battles that changed history, hit that subscribe button. And here's a question for the comments. If you could cover any military unit from World War II next, which one would it be? The Screaming Eagles at Bastogne? The French Resistance? The Gurkhas? Let us know. And if this story gave you a new respect for the desert rats, share it with someone who loves military history. They'll thank you for it. Until next time, see you in the next video.